whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
I'm scared to close my eyes. I'm scared to open them. I'm gonna die out here.
I am the eater of worlds and of children. Have you checked the children?
Like, oh my god, it's the 1980s! With the Literary License Podcast retrospective of 80s horror films, with your co-hosts, Joe Radazzo, Vicky Ray, John Wilson, and Keith Shago, keeping everything tubular and rad.
I'm not even gonna swat that fly. I hope they are watching. They'll see. They'll see and they'll know. And they'll say, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
I'm your number one fan.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast, and it's the 80s 2-for-1 episode. And today we have with us Vicky Ray. Hello, Vicky.
Hi, everybody.
And John Wilson.
Hello, everybody.
And Joe Radazzo.
Hello, how is everyone?
And I'm Keith Shago, and we'll be discussing Killer Party from 1986 and Night of the Demons from 1987. So before we get started, let's find out what everyone's been up to. Starting with you, John, what have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
I have been packing like a madman. No, I mean, it's been a lot trying to get stuff, getting rid of stuff, I'm moving out to Jersey. So I'm really excited for that and enjoying, October is my favorite month. Not that I don't watch horror movies out of October, but right. I tend to up my ante. I was watching all the Nightmare on Elm Street. So I was watching, last night was Trick or Treat. I watched Trick or Treat, which I'd never seen that.
I've never seen it yet either.
Oh, wow. It's cute. It's kind of kiddie, but it's cute. And, I watched, finally got to power watch the new season of Slasher, which is, I'm
halfway through.
It's so hard to watch because, I just don't like the grotesque and I don't like that. I like the mystery. Oh, yeah. I don't like gore. I don't like gore. But this is a whole new,
is it that bad? Okay. Well,
oh my God. Especially toward the end, if either Keith, have you watched it or no?
Yeah, I've watched it.
I know he did.
Especially towards the end with the daughter, which I will not give it any away, but it's just like, holy mother of God. Like it gets to be too much. Yeah. And my gag reflexes were like, what? Like I just wanted to throw up. It was like,
oh God, something for gag. Like I'll have to finish it then because it takes very little makes me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Gag. Be ready. I'm just telling you. I'm just, So yeah.
Big cockroach in my mailbox yesterday kind of made me gag. But
Texas cockroach.
Yeah, I know. My mailman was putting the mail in there. I go, don't do it. And he goes, why? I go, there's a huge cockroach in there. I go, I'll give you $20 if you swat that motherfucker out.
Oh, I was going to tell you, I finally watched Malignant and I was like, throughout the entire movie, I was like, I can't. My friends were like, it's not bad. I'm like, the music was driving me crazy. It was just almost too comical.
I think it's a horror movie. Way people were explaining it in the forums, they think it was that. I think it makes sense. A horror movie for people who don't normally like horror.
Yeah, it was like, to me, it just is also overacting. There was like so many moments of like, it was like over the top overacting.
The head thing, like
yeah.
It was like a little nod to The Grudge there.
Just every exposition was like, and I was like, okay, stop! Like, what the hell?
Yeah, so maybe I started, but I can't get into it.
I couldn't. But you gotta say you finished it.
I can't.
You gotta say you finished it.
I finished it, but it was just like the music was also just not. It was weird because I was one point I was like, are they trying to be spoofy? Or are they trying to be silly? Or are they trying to be serious and like trying to be because the music
it's not
was
like
also
Insidious or any of them, right?
Yeah.
You know,
no,
Yeah, I don't think this was meant to be taken seriously.
yeah,
Because it was too schlocky.
I mean, it's almost as if like because the director. I think it's like if you look at Japanese horror, there is that element that I think is just expected, and he tried to bring that over and Americanize it, and it just doesn't translate. We either want it really spoofy and campy, or we want it like dark and horror, and it's can't be that in between. And that's exactly where it was. Where I was like,
yeah, that's actually
it's weird. Like I couldn't get into it. Yeah,
he seemed to try to mash together like early 2000s like J horror and like an 80s or 70s or 80s giallo and tried to like mash them together.
Yeah.
It's weird. At some point I'll rewatch it, but it's funny because when I first watched it I didn't like it, but then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, that was cool and that was cool and that. So I don't know. Maybe I'll rewatch it and like it. Who knows?
And what about yourself, Joe? What have you been up to?
All right. Well, I might have a screenwriting gig coming up. I randomly woke up Monday morning with a message in my inbox about writing something, and I told them to send the stuff over. By Wednesday, I had the NDAs. I sent them to an entertainment attorney. He's looking it over. I'm assuming probably by Monday or Tuesday, I'll probably know something, but.
Fingers and toes crossed, Joe.
Yeah, right. I'm hoping, man, because I've been waiting for a writing gig for a little while, and one of my close friends is pitching one of my scripts again to another company, and they seem to be receptive. So we'll see. It could work out really well. And the other thing I've been doing all month is I've been doing the Horror Hound Challenge, which for every single date they set the type of movie you need to see, and like. Well, today the challenge is go see Halloween Kills. If you can't go see Halloween Kills, then just watch one of the Halloween movies. But I am
an easy one for me.
What's that?
I said that's an easy one for me. I love Halloween.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
I will be going to see Halloween Kills. I watched the original and the 2018 yesterday to kind of. I really more needed to watch the 2018 one again to kind of set the tone for this. Yeah. But I'm going to see it. What is it now? It's noon here now. I'm going to see it around 4. So.
I think people are pleased with the content.
I have to wait until the weekend of Halloween because my friends want to watch it together. And I was like, okay, so I have to on social put blinders on. I have to just pretty much go into a hole for the next 2 weeks because there are those a-holes who just love being able to say what happens in a film.
Oh, yeah, there are. Yeah,
I saw some reviews last night. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's safe to say this is the second of a trilogy. So
yeah.
Well, I think people are happy with the continuity.
Yeah,
and not a big hole like from part of the other franchise, like
they
skip a whole thing.
Well, the Halloween franchise probably has the biggest holes of any other franchise in it.
Yeah.
Well, that's why. Well, ergo, that's why people are probably happy that this one's going to follow suit with 2018. I believe is the last one in this particular timeline, right?
Yeah.
Was it 2018?
It would be like considering a second film to the original Halloween. It erases everything else. Like it pretty much.
Okay, well, what happened to the one? What about the one prior to this, where Jamie Lee Curtis is having the cellar action and all that? This is part of that, correct?
This continues that story. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first Halloween, and then the one that was the newer one of 3 years ago, like that one is technically part 2, right? And then this one's part 3, and then the last one will be part 4, and that's it. So that kind of breaks that.
Zombie films and the others.
Well, Rob
nothing to do with this.
Rob Zombie's a reboot, so that doesn't equivalent to any part of it. What basically you have with Halloween is you got Halloween 1 and 2,
right?
Yeah, and then it goes 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
because the Jamie Lee Curtis dies in an accident, and her child ends up becoming a foster child in Haddonfield or wherever.
Right. Yeah.
Then what happens is H2O happens, and 4, 5, and 6 don't happen anymore, and so we got 1 and 2 and H2O.
Yeah.
So and then Halloween Resurrection, which is the one with the rapper that really sucks, where Jamie Lee Curtis Swan dives off the top of the asylum.
Which pissed me off. Like, I literally wanted to walk out of the theater when that happened. I was like, this is bullshit. This is a horrible way. And I know
think a lot of people shared that sentiment.
I know, but I knew it was her saying, I don't want to do this shit anymore, so just kill me. Like, she was like, probably at that point, like, why are you bringing me back again? Oh, you want to kill me in the beginning? Fine, great. Now I never have to do this again. And even in this, I remember her talking in interviews saying there had to be something that really brought her back and wanting to do this, because she was like, I was kind of done, and I was kind of thought, oh God, how are they going to bring me back now? But then when she read the script, she was like,
closure.
Oh, crap. No, it's like, oh crap, like you're erasing everything that had happened in that series, and you're kind of giving Lori a second take on what happened with her in a different way, right? Like,
it's kind of nice though. I mean, I kind of like the fact that there's some continuity there, in this.
I mean, the only, I guess, and then with the new one, basically, that Laurie Strode is not the brother of Michael Myers, or Michael Myers is not her brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it goes 1, 18, and 19. But saying that, I did watch 1, 2, part 1 and part 2, because I quite like part 2, actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
hospital, right?
Nothing's worse than, nothing's better than, a very understaffed hospital.
I know.
Yeah, very understaffed.
Where no
Oh my
one's
God,
there.
thank
You know, and another thing you have to remember is that they basically killed those babies that were born in this hospital. They killed Michael Myers.
Yeah.
But I have to just say, when you watch 1 and 2 and then watch the 2018 one, they do kind of go together, even though they do take the piss out of Michael Myers being the brother of Laurie Strode sort of thing in the 2018. But
He said, I think the director said he wanted to take the focus of family and put it on Laurie, not Laurie and a brother, right? It was more Laurie having a family, and then the legacy of that thing that's tainted your life is now passed on to your family, like that.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Halloween, though, is that they came out with a novel when the movie came out in 1978. They came out with a novelization that we were able to buy in like the school book club. So I bought it and read it.
The school book club.
You remember the school? You know that one that basically
I remember.
You order your books off it, and I got Halloween, and I did read a novelization. And the funny thing about the 1978 book of the novelization of the original movie is that it does mention the whole Thorn stuff in there. Yeah. All that stuff's mentioned in that novelization, even before 4, 5, and 6 and all that came out, and all the other stuff, and how Laurie and Michael were brother and sister.
Yeah.
So that's all mentioned in novelization. And this is before part 2 came out and all that other stuff. So, and I guess the only thing I can say is that it makes a little bit more sense that Michael Myers would keep going after her if that was the case.
Yeah.
Because now we got Michael Myers going after her again, and you're never quite sure why.
Just doesn't ever. They don't ever really specify why. Do they?
Well, I mean,
because of family, he was killing the family off, sort of thing.
There's no specific reason, though.
I think they're trying to elaborate that he's just this unstoppable force, and so had he killed her, he wouldn't have just stopped. He would have went through that town and just obliterated it. And so that's what they're trying to.
You think he would have taken out Olive Haddonfield?
Yeah. And there's an alluding that, there's like a blood trail from where he gets out to his home. So he's trying to get home for a reason. So we don't know necessarily, she could be his sister. We don't know that. So that's the interesting thing is, could it be a very harbored, kept secret that she just didn't want to tell them, like, I am, like, that was a lie that people were saying, but it is actually true. Like, and it could be that could be why, or it could just be like, home is where the heart is, right? I'm going to go home. I killed my first victim there, and now I want to just do a rampage and kill everyone in town. It could be that too as well, right?
Well, we also have, with the new one, we also have Lindsay, and the little boy that Laurie Strode was babysitting are now back. The original actors are back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're now in the pathway. So I imagine that there will be more explanation. And
Lindsay, the little pain in the ass that doesn't help the babysitter.
Yeah.
Lindsay!
Where she's like half naked, stuck out the window.
With Lindsay.
Yeah.
I got the impression watching the 2018 one yesterday that Michael Myers doesn't know who Laurie Strode is and couldn't care less.
That would be funny, actually, because it's sort of like, oh wait, are you the one that got away? Oh great, I'll kill you now. like why? Is there a connection? Yeah.
Well, Well, we'll soon find out. I mean, to sit there. I mean, the 2018. I watched one, and I did watch two in between the 2018. And I quite like that trilogy because I quite like her being the brother or something like that.
I never hated part two. Like the only ones
that I don't.
Like the ones where I think
Halloween
it gets really bad. Like,
say, is that the one we're talking about?
The 1981 Halloween.
I love that one. I don't see what I love it.
It's like the same night. So
the only ones I really dislike are like 5, 6, and 7 and 8. Like those I really dislike. Everything else, I'm like, it's not terrible. Even the Rob Zombie movie. I didn't hate the Rob Zombie movie.
I like the first one. It's the second one where he needs to bring his wife back because there's no acting part for her, so she needs to come back as a ghost
with a white horse, and it was so weird.
that got weird.
I found it like interesting too. Like with H2O, you have a parallel version of Laurie who is like just an alcoholic, and like what was weird though is like how does a alcoholic, I guess a functioning alcoholic, become a dean of a school? And like you would think
you would be surprised.
I just got hired by a school to proctor exams. So if they're willing to hire somebody like me,
I think that's fantastic.
Well, when I went to the Halloween Part 2, my teacher took me to go see it with me and a couple classmates because our parents were really so my teacher took us.
That's cool.
So,
Beckett's Harbor.
Yeah, Mrs. Powers. God bless her soul.
We went to see Home Alone 2. Our teachers were going to take us to see Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, my teacher took me to see Friday the 13th Part 1 and Part 2 because
the good old days.
Well, I was like a teacher's pet sort of thing with her.
I can't imagine.
And she would like take me to go see horror. Because my parents wouldn't go to horror films, and the only way I could get in is she would take me. Just be me and her.
My cousin paid a drunk guy outside the movie theater $20 to buy him a ticket to Jason Goes to Hell.
Oh my God, that's
do they really enforce that shit?
I think they do now, but back then I don't think I ever remember that.
I remember Saturday Night Fever. Oh my God, I was like 13 years old. My mother brought me and a bunch of screaming girls because she was, they couldn't get in. They would not let you in to see it back then. So funny.
Yeah,
I convinced my mom to take my friends and I to see The Crow, and she was
that movie.
Pissed. She was not happy that we were making her watch
that movie.
I love it too. She hated it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. My mother's really cool, but I can't imagine her sitting down and watching The Crow with me.
I mean, Cineplexes are a bit different because the thing is you can cheat with Cineplexes.
Yeah. I'm going to go see My Little Pony, and you're actually seeing Freddy Kills Jason.
So that's what we used to do. So
Sorry? My cousin and I paid to see Three Ninjas. And we wanted to sneak into True Lies because we heard Jamie Lee Curtis does a striptease in it, and we accidentally snuck into Natural Born Killers.
I love that movie too. I love my favorite titles today. Oh my God!
Actually, my secretary, she doesn't like violent films whatsoever. So basically, she wanted to go see Grumpy Old Men.
Yeah.
The one about the two guys with the bucket list. Sort of thing.
Yeah. I love that
and she showed up at the movie theaters, bought her ticket, didn't realize that basically she got the title wrong and went to see No Country for Old Men instead.
Oh, no.
Which is also a very good movie.
It is extremely violent.
It's a tonal shift.
It's extremely violent, but it's also like a more like mob movie versus like horror. To me, I don't know. I'd
be pretty horrified if someone like that and that looked like that was trying to kill me and gave me, was it heads or tails?
Yeah, exactly.
Heads, tails.
I said to her, I go, how long did it take you to realize you're in this wrong movie? She goes, I sat there for about half an hour, and when what's his name? The black actor, Morgan Freeman, didn't show up, I knew that's because I figured something was going on.
Amazing.
Great.
So what about yourself, Vix? What have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been not a whole lot. Like, this has been a really slow month. We're just kind of getting excited for Halloween, and the holiday season is the silly season, I like to call it, is going to be upon us pretty soon. I've just been sticking close to the house because there's so much road construction out front, and been taking Asher. We do our BMX and our soccer thing now. But we got NASCAR tickets for this weekend, so that ought to be fun. But I was watching them. I think I wrote you and Joe. I stopped at a certain part after Cat in the Bag because I didn't want to see what happened because I know it's not going to be good. None of this is going to be any good. I'm going to finish watching it, I swear, tonight. But I mean, when that little girl starts going, Cat in the Bag, that was it. It's like, oh my God, because the part I think was most distressing about that movie is there really are people like that out there. Scary enough, it doesn't, I don't care who you are, what race, creed, color, there are people that evil out there. And it really disturbed me. I don't mind watching babies die in movies, but this one bothered me. Don't know why. Usually when the kid gets it, don't bother me. But this one kind of, the pillowcase thing just kind of freaked me out. But I got into Stranger Things. Nobody wanted to watch it. I found out that Asher and Amelia were watching Stranger Things and they got all freaked out and scared by it. And I was like, okay, well, this sounds like something I got to check out. So the kids won't stay in the room and watch it, but I'm actually getting into Stranger Things right now. And I'm waiting patiently for Dune to come out on HBO Max.
Robert Englund is joining the cast of Stranger Things the next season.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No kidding. I can't wait then.
That's what's making me now watch it because I hadn't given a shit, but now I'm like, wait a minute, Robert Englund's going to be in the next season, so I'm going to have to check it out.
It's a fun show to watch. It's very nostalgia. I mean, they get music. Some of it wrong, but the music and the clothes and everything, it's very nostalgic. Yeah.
I downloaded all the music from my Spotify. So, because I listen, oh my God, I just totally love it. Sort of like American Horror Story, 1984. I loved the music to that too. A lot of people didn't like American Horror Story. I really enjoyed at least the last 3 episodes of that, particularly the last. I really liked American Horror Story last time.
Never seen any of it. And actually, one of my friends, Maria Olson, was in the Asylum season. I should check. I should go back.
Asylum's one of their best seasons, but that just might be me. But
my favorite was Roanoke.
Really, some reason that wasn't my favorite. I liked it in the beginning, and it just kind of. I was expecting.
I like that it just kept being very meta. Like it kept coming through.
Coven is definitely my all-around favorite, followed by Freak Show. Freak Show. I mean, that was some fucked up shit. Hotel was pretty bad too. I'll never,
I wouldn't need to watch like each season in sequence, right? I could just start at the beginning of each season.
Well, it kind of ties in, kind of, sort of. I don't really get how it's all tying in, except to maybe
it's certain characters and certain times. So you kind of have to watch and know the names. So like when they reference a character, it's like, for instance, in Freak Show, Dandy, the pretty boy killer guy,
right?
Dandy is related to the guy in Roanoke. Or the guy that bought the house in Roanoke.
Right.
So they mention his name. So they do like line dot connections of people.
Sometimes these things go, and I'm just not.
And some characters come over, some don't. Like
We're enjoying fall.
Well, myself, I started watching Chucky, the television series.
That's right.
I forgot. I can't wait. Well, actually, I want to watch it sequentially. So I'm trying to just wait for it to roll out week to week.
I liked it. I think we're in for a treat. What's great about it? What 1, 2, and the rest of them they have the same producer and the same people, who've done them from beginning. So it has, it has that going on in it. And, I'm waiting for, Andy Barclay to come back and the girl to come back from the second one. And Jennifer Tilly's back. And, even the people in the last 2 movies.
Is this a limited season?
Well, if it does well, I imagine it will continue. If enough people watch it and stuff like this. But I think I find it a real treat, sort of thing.
I think it will be because I think it's on Sci-Fi and USA, and Sci-Fi doesn't really have any big hitters right now. So depending on the ratings of what it got, either network, I think that they will, just because they need something to have like a good spotlight on them.
Right.
And it's got good critic ratings. Actually, the critics are liking it as well.
Yeah. I like the last couple movies, the direct-to-video movies that
fantastic.
They did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this too.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying that. So I'm interested to see that Creep Show, of course, and Shudder I've been watching, and then and Back to Blood,
I've noticed a lot of major tweeting on Back to Blood. I see Barbara Crampton tweeting about was it Back for Blood or?
Yeah, Back for Blood.
Did you do the release? Did you record? because you were going to, or is that coming up?
No, I'm doing that this weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'm playing online with fans. So
Nice. Yay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
congratulations.
that should be a riot.
And outside of that, basically I had a skin infection that basically from my agent asked me to dye my beard for publicity.
I was going to say, you look really good.
And then basically it all broke out. So
Oh no.
So now, I basically have to shave everything off, and now everything's clearing off. But that was been fun. But I've been working from home all week because I can't wear a face mask at the moment. So it's kind of a win-win situation.
You're like, can you burn my face again and just take it?
Sort of thing. So now I just have the mustache, and I have to be careful how I shave it, so I don't end up looking like a white supremacist. So.
Got your little Adolf Hitler little like line.
Excuse me as I walk through my white male privilege. With my little
That reminds me of Rat Race. Did you ever see Rat Race where the guy does that with the steering wheel and then he burns his tongue and he's like, whoa, 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 and he's doing it with his hand up.
God, I forgot about that movie.
So good.
Oh my God, I forgot about it.
The Barbie museum ended up being like some Nazi guy, and they're like, wrong museum, Barbie.
I'm actually making a note to revisit that movie now because I'm
So
like, oh my
good.
God.
I haven't said that in years. I went to a movie theater and saw that. That was like that's from the 80s, isn't it? Rat Race. The 80s?
Early 90s. Late 90s. Yeah.
I remember going to a Cineplex and seeing it for some reason. Don't know why. I went and saw it. Back when I used to go to the movies like every week.
Oh, it's on HBO Max.
I remember. Who's that? What's on HBO Max?
Rat Race. It's on HBO Max.
Cool.
I'll be able to
What
check
else is coming out on HBO Max this week? Anything good?
I don't know, but I think the Halloween franchise is available on every single format out there.
You know
it's not on HBO.
You know what
Amazon and Netflix and Sky
for a mere $29. I don't know if I'm that ambitious for a mere. I want to see it really bad. I don't know. We thought about going to watch it, so I don't know.
You know what isn't is any of the Screams, and I was trying to watch because I saw the trailer and I was like, oh my God, I actually want to go back. And I was like, where the hell? It's not on Netflix. It's not on anything. So they took it and
when's it being released? The new Scream movie.
January. Yeah,
I bet
the trailer looks great.
December time, what will happen is they'll all be released across all. But then again, they're Disney anyway. The Dimension Films.
Oh, Dimensions, maybe.
Miramax.
Yeah.
They're Disney, so they'll probably be on the Disney.
They're probably on Hulu then or Star. Yeah, for you guys.
They're on Pluto TV.
Oh, okay.
I'm like Pluto. Yeah. I mean,
I
love
HBO Max last month. And I think I joked with Keith and Vicky. I was like, because the Scream movies were being taken off HBO Max on September 30th. I was like, yeah, I can't imagine anyone would want to see the Scream movies on October 1st.
Well, that's why I was like, what the hell?
No
Usually every year I would go on to Netflix, and they were on Netflix, and I was like, okay, now they're not on here.
I think they'll do what they've done with the Halloweens, though. Basically, if they pulled Halloween from everything, and now, if you notice, October 1st, Halloween's on everything now because the sequel, isn't it? Let's get people excited about the movie coming out. So that's probably what they're doing with the Scream is probably 1st of December. It's okay. The movie's coming out in January, so let's get all these out there so people can get excited about the next installment. So
yeah, I was surprised that all the Nightmare are on HBO, so I was watching all those.
Warner owns New Line now, so that's their property now.
Yeah.
I didn't know Anthony Michael Hall was going to be in Halloween Kills. How did that get past me?
Yeah,
that was there were a couple of news articles about it.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, he's playing the boy. He's playing the little boy that Laurie Strode babysat.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Tommy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. They got Kyle Richards back from Beverly Real Housewives of Beverly Hills back as Lindsay because she was the original Lindsay. So that's gonna be quite nice to see her.
And then I think the original sheriff, right? Because there's one that was a sheriff, like the younger
Charles
sheriff, not
Cyphers
the older
is back.
sheriff. Yeah.
Charles Cyphers is back, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And Kyle Richards on the set of it broke her nose.
Oh God.
Really?
It's okay. She got a new nose. So.
free nose job. Yay.
Precisely. Paid for by the people of Halloween.
How do you get your nose job? Well, Michael Myers broke my nose when I was running away from him.
Well, the original Lindsay grew up to be a very beautiful woman.
Yeah, it's a lot of the Botox and plastic surgery will do for you.
No, hey, don't knock the Botox. Leave the Botox alone.
Well, speaking of Botox, this brings us to Killer Party, which is a 1986 Canadian comedic supernatural slasher film directed by William Frett and starring Martin Hewlett, Ralph Seymour, Elaine Wilkes, Joanna Johnson, Sherry Willis Birch, and Paul Bartel. It follows a trio of female sorority pledges who unleash a demonic force after participating in an initiation ritual in an abandoned house on their university's campus. So before we discuss Killer Party from 1986, let's listen to the trailer.
I wonder what Mrs. Henshaw is going to do now. Gonna need...
Now, I'm gonna break it up.
20 years was the door always open. Everybody else fucking their brains Tell them we'll go to Bugsy.
Hello, welcome back to the Literary License Podcast, and we're discussing Killer Party from 1986. So, Joe, what are your thoughts of Killer Party?
It's weird because it starts out with a double fake out.
Right.
Kind of got me because I was watching it yesterday, and I'm like, and it's funny because that opening sequence, I'm sitting there, my roommate's watching it with me, and I'm basically calling every line. I'm like, this is like every cliche in the book, and I'm like, oh, okay, she's watching a movie. Okay, cool. And then they're watching the movie, and it turns into they are currently in a music video, which, again, I'm like, okay, that's 10 minutes, so nothing's happened yet.
Psych!
Yeah, it was a double fake out, which I kind of appreciated, but at the same time, I kind of groaned at it. I didn't realize that it was supposed to be comedic when I first started it, but then I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to kind of get it. And I lit up when I saw Paul Bartel's name show up because I'm like, shit, yeah, Eating Raoul is one of the greatest comedies I've ever seen. I love him in everything. Every cameo he's ever done, he's fantastic, and he usually steals the show. So it was pretty cool to see him in this. Yeah, but I mean, besides that, it took a long while to get going. Like, you don't really get to any of the stuff that you want in like a slasher movie until like the last like 25 minutes to half an hour roughly. So it was kind of a strange watch for me. I didn't really know what to make of it entirely. I'm gonna have to go back and check it out eventually. Overall, it got a little bit better. There's the stuff that stuck out to me, like the whole thing with the bees, and then they're filming them. Yeah. They're showing it at the meeting, and I'm amazed that like the teachers are like joining in and laughing at it while Paul Bartel's trying to like shut everything down. And I'm like, that would never happen. The teachers would never be laughing at this.
Well, especially the female teacher, right? Wasn't it? It wasn't. It was another teacher. It wasn't Miss Hernshaw. No.
Or she was like, what was it her?
No, it wasn't, because she got killed. Remember, she got killed at the start.
She gets killed at the beginning.
Yeah.
The first one to go. So yeah, it's kind of weird seeing like a female teacher kind of laughing like, oh, this is great. I'm like, oh, so fucking weird. It's a strange little movie though. It enjoy it.
It took an ass beating for from like the Fort Worth Star Telegram and Town Talk. I guess even Joe Bob, he gave it, a slight recommendation based on its excessive number of murders, but deemed it supernatural elements redolent of The Exorcist 73 and Poltergeist of 82, whatever that means.
Yeah, it felt like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be.
It seemed like it was giving a nod to a lot of movies, didn't you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely it gave me Black Christmas with the whole you couldn't see who the killer was.
Exactly.
It definitely, I would say it was like, I agree. Nothing sort of happens after that woman gets killed, and you're just waiting for someone to die, and then it's like Squid Game, or whatever it's called.
Don't get me going on that. I love Squid.
No, but I'm saying it's like literally boom, 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 boom. Like they start dropping like flies, and you're like, holy shit! Like everyone's just getting killed. Awesome. And creatively, it wasn't just like let's just stab someone. It's like let's beat this one with a hammer. It was like what the hell?
Well, that was the strange thing is
you got a hammer I can borrow.
Yeah.
They kept going back and doing the fake outs, like the guillotine fake out, and so that was the thing that I'm watching and I'm like, all right, that's going to be a prank.
She was a prankster, though, wasn't that?
Yeah, like the first hour, like almost everything except Paul Bartel and the other teacher dying are all pranks. Everything's a prank, so it kind of it feels kind of weird when it's like, oh, okay, this is actually a murder now. These are actual kills now.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, once the actual kills started, they were kind of fun. Kind of like the deep dive, suit that the killer was wearing towards the end. I did really dig that.
Where did that come from? Because it was like there, and then it wasn't there.
Did they have a bunch of junk in this house, though? There was the shit strewn all over that place. So. Yeah. And in the beginning, who was it that went and talked to the headstone? Who was that? Angela? No, wait, not Angela. That was the other movie. Who was it? Mrs. Henshaw.
Yeah, because it was her brother.
She asked them not to do their hazing. You know what? As far as hazing, I mean, I've never had any urge to belong to anything like that when I was in college. And just because if anybody ever fucked with me that bad, I mean, most of them bitches would be bald. Literally. I mean, that was just Mean Girls on steroids.
I was part of fraternity, so I went through all that when I was in school.
Fuck that.
I just found like it was interesting because I think it also poked fun at like Animal Party and Porky's, like those films where it's like the overly sexualization of like, the women. It's like looking, oh my God, they're all like oogling. And we get that in Night of the Demons too, but it's like they kind of make fun of those movies where like that is prominent in like the frat houses where it's like, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and it's like extreme close up of the boobs, or
these two movies. Let's face it, beer and boob. Yeah. We should have said this is the beer and boob podcast today. Yeah. Seriously.
But
I think what I quite like about Killer Party, I saw Killer Party when it came out. We were drunk and I was in college at the time. And I kind of remember it's like, now this was supposed to be an April Fool's Day. Right. And of course, April Fool's Day, this is a Canadian picture, and April Fool's Day was being released the same year by an American company, so this one had to change its name to Killer Party. So that's what we got. Then we got the Deborah Foreman version of April Fool's Day, the American, which are two different movies, but they had the same title.
They had to change the name, didn't they, because of the other movie that came out?
Yeah. So, and I guess because if this is called April Fool's Day, I probably would give you more of an idea of what you're probably going to go see. But because they changed the title to Killer Party because of, reasons just were said. So therefore, you never quite knew what you were getting. And what I quite liked about this is that they're all quite likable, though. They don't, and another thing is they don't really do. This is one of those weird movies where your characters are not doing a lot of. Most 80s films that we'll notice, especially with the slasher genre, that we have a lot of 80s characters doing a lot of really stupid things and making really stupid decisions.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But here they don't really make those stupid decisions. They're kind of like, there's like it's kind of a meta film before the 90s meta films came around.
Yeah.
And another thing, I think that it's got an off-kilter sense to it, and I think that's because it's Canadian. And like the films you mentioned, like Porky's and Black Christmas and films like that, they're all Canadian films as well anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it kind of looks at this American culture from an outside lens, that's what I quite like about Killer Party a little bit. Now, it does hang together very, very strangely. It's a very, very strange film that was composited together. But it's an interesting one, and I think that's what I like about it, because it kind of sets you off. You're just expecting Leslie Nielsen to show up at some point, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things I thought, when you have these types of characters that are so over the top, where you're like, all of the fraternity guys, but then the other two guys, which I can't remember if it was Virgil and I forget the other guy's name, but those two are like so slapsticky. But then you have like Jennifer, who is from the very start hyper aware of something's amiss. Like literally, she's walking and like she is like, when you look at like Halloween, for example, Laurie walks and she sees something. It takes her a couple minutes to be like, something's going on. Jennifer's like, who's there? Like literally, like the first scene where someone's lurking, she's like, did you see that? Who's that? Like she literally was like right in like, and so throughout the movie, it's interesting that she's the one who actually becomes possessed because she's hyper aware of everything that's going on around her.
Where have I seen her before, that actress?
She just looks like Elizabeth Shue.
She does, yeah.
My roommate and I like could not be like, oh my god, she looks so much like Elizabeth Shue.
You think that's what it is? Hasn't she been? Maybe not so much Elizabeth Shue.
She was in The Bold and the Beautiful.
Oh, there you go.
That's okay. That was driving me freaking crazy.
I will say though, what made me hysterically laugh is when she does get possessed, because it reminded me of Days of Our Lives when Marlena got possessed. And
my god, I forgot about that.
You couldn't take it seriously because she's like, oh, and then she's climbing the walls. And I mean, I was dying laughing watching this movie, and I'm like, am I supposed to be laughing, or am I supposed to be taking this serious, like their lives are in danger?
I thought she did a pretty good job of being possessed though.
I agree, yeah. And it's funny that they put her in the costume and they deliberately took her out of that costume, because how would you know that, right? Like, so they almost had to put her in the the diver costume, and then they're like, okay, well, this is not going to work, because how are they going to know she's possessed? Okay, let's just now take her out of it. So I was like, what happened to the diver outfit? Like, you were the diver, and then now you're not the diver.
When did she get possessed, though?
It was throughout the film, because remember, she kept kind of having little dizzy spells, and she's like, I don't feel well. And then things...
this all transpired as soon as they entered the house.
Yeah.
That they were supposed to enter. Okay.
And she kept hearing Jennifer.
That's right. I was just wondering why you picked her. That's all. Because there were so many others, like the evil socialite,
Veronica. Yeah.
Mean girl, Veronica.
Yeah,
oh my god.
She was such a bitch. Oh my god.
She was. Yeah. She did a great job making you hate her.
I like that her friends were not the typical. Like, again, it goes to the Canadian versus American. Her friends were well balanced. Like, Vivian was smart, kind of geeky, nerdy. And then Phoebe was the one that was like very smart, knew what she was doing, trying. And even when she kind of falls for Alan, or not Alan, what's his name? She falls for the guy. I can't think of what his name is. She falls for Albert. So she falls for Albert. She's still a little bit like, are you playing me? What's going on? And then she knows that Veronica, I guess, dated him and was like, back away. He's mine. And then they're like, he's not yours. He's mine. She's still very much like, I'm not a dumb girl who's going to just fall for some guy. Like, but yeah, I like the film. I thought it was interesting because I definitely see that it pokes fun at, that college frat humor, but then it tries to kind of balance it with the mystery of like, who's doing this? Because at one point I thought it was the Martin, because I thought, is he like a character, like I'm trying to think of what horror movie where it's like basically you think this is a killer and it's not, and all of a sudden you realize it's a geek in the background. I thought, like, is he the one who's doing this? Is he the one? And then when I realized it's like an actual apparition or a demon, I was like,
what was he supposed to actually be dressed up as, the geek with the boobs? What was he supposed to be?
I don't know.
He's supposed to be dressed as a fraternity girl.
Is that what
he
sorority girl?
Mentioned the name of who he was God, I'm blanking now because when he walks into the party, he says
something, and I can't remember it.
Yeah, I cannot remember it now.
But he was interesting because I just thought he was a little stalker and weird at first, especially when he comes.
Well, he
to
was
her.
a stalker.
Yeah. When he comes to Jennifer and he's
were...
like, "Hey, can I come in?" And she's like, "No, I'm good. You don't need to come in here. Thanks."
Yeah, he was a little bit of a creep.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little seedy.
You know what I'm realizing now as I'm thinking about it? This kind of reminded me of Student Bodies. I don't know if you guys are
another Canadian film.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Richard Belzer, I think, is the only person whose name I remember being in that. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that. And yeah, it is another Canadian film. That's true. Shit.
Which was the one that we reviewed too, Keith, that we did that was around two friends going to a house. And then I'm trying to now remember. It was like they're college roommates, and then they go to this house, and I was trying to, for the life of me, remember it, and it reminded me a lot of that too. Just the smartness to the characters and how they interact with each other, and they weren't falling for certain things. They were very aware of their environment and what was going on. So and I think it was a Canadian film. I have to go back. It was one of the ones.
Another Canadian film that came out around the same time is Happy Birthday to Me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and if you look at what I quite like about Canadian horror films is that the endings, they're not good endings. They're not like
not as a whole.
No.
You know, they're not like these happy endings. I mean, even the ending of this is that you know that the evil hasn't been finished. It's not finished.
Yeah.
It's still there. You know what I mean? They don't finalize anything. Happy Birthday to Me is just like the way that ends, basically the same. It's like there's no happy ending to this, or Black Christmas.
I was going to say Black Christmas either. There's no happy ending there.
Yeah.
I don't think
that's what I quite like about it. It's kind of like it's like you're watching an American film that's kind of off kiltered. That's what I quite like about, and that's Killer Party does that. But another thing I quite found interesting also is that the women are not sex. You know, they're not the sex objects in this movie. If you notice that the women are quite sexually savvy themselves.
Yeah.
You know, like she's in the car, she's trying to seduce the guy, and she goes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And that's quite an interesting thing, especially like in an 80s film. Okay, we're quite we're normalized to, you know, how the women have now, you know, taken back the power. But in the 80s, which you'll see like in Night of the Demons, is very, very much of a male hormonal film sort of thing, where this one is not really a male hormonal film. This is these girls pretty much, it's like if I'm going to sleep with someone, it's going to be because I want to sleep with them. It's not going to be because of anything else. And I thought that was quite a refreshing thing from a 1986 film.
And especially when you have that sort of sorority girl against sorority girl, it was more the women against the women in that sense. Like if you look at just how Veronica treated them all, it was like she was trying to dominate them because she had something they wanted, which was to be in that house. So they were kind of allowing it, but going, yeah, once I'm in, because you notice their confidence change once they became goats, right? Is that what you call goats? Yeah. Once they became goats, they pushed a little bit back more, like, okay, whatever, you know.
Except for the goat eyeball stuff, you know, it's just like
they probably went to a butcher.
normally when you actually eat goat eyeballs, actually they normally blindfold you and they tell you they're goat, but normally it's like some kind of like grape or thing that they.
I think this was a grape.
I trust no one
like
in college.
but when you watch it, it is a grape. Like they're giving him a grape. They're not giving him an eyeball. Like that would be
where we get goat eyeballs anyway. At your local
butcher.
We have all kinds of ethnic stores down the road and stuff because we got a big culture. Well, you probably do yourself, John. You can pick up goats' heads. You can pick up anything.
You can pick up anything. Like if you go to a butcher, you pretty much can pick up anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Testicles, like goat.
Testicles. Mountain oysters and head cheese.
It's like brains. You want cow brains? Ooh.
Oh, tripe. I'll never understand people like tripe. The Spanish people here like tripe and stuff. So I can't do it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. They eat that in Spain a lot.
Yeah. Probably good for you.
You mentioned the whole sexual thing, but in this one, like the sequence with the eggs kind of looked like porn the way they shot it. The girls just laying there like mouths open, like
yeah. It was odd looking. I have to admit, there was a reason for that.
Now I have to sit there and say, with this film, this is the first time I've seen this film since 1986. So
I hadn't seen it.
But I have to sit there and say, it always stuck in my head. I think what what always stuck in my head was the blonde haired girl with the big glasses for some reason. She always stuck in my head, running around that town outfit.
Well, she's the heroine, like the final. Well, she was sort of the final girl.
Yeah,
kind of.
Sort of until what's her name Phoebe gets possessed, and she's like, "You're with me now."
Don't put me in there with her.
But I can remember, like when I first saw it, it's like going, "Where in the hell is this going?" And then by the end of it, it's like there's something about it is like, is it a great film? No, but it has a film that kind of just stays with you, and it has stayed with me for over 40 years. This film, sort of thing. I don't know what it is, but it does also feel like a film that they were putting together as they were filming it at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a fun film. It was fun. I thought it was fun.
My favorite scene was towards the end when she's possessed and she's literally like destroying the house. Like I just thought that was like so fun. Like can you imagine filming that? I mean, I would be laughing my ass off filming like a
trying
scene
to get out the window.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to get up the stairs, and then it's like trying to get out the window, and like, oh god, so good.
And that girl broke her legs when she jumped.
Yeah.
It's an odd little film, but I think it's one that I think it deserves a greater cult status than what it probably does have, sort of thing. I think it's one of these films that kind of got kind of forgotten about, and there are other ones that got cult status that I don't really think deserve cult status, but this one I think kind of deserves cult status, and I think it makes a good double feature with the next one that we're discussing, but it also makes a great double feature with April Fool's Day as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I agree, and I think it's like one of these films that just the whole meta aspect, which you were talking about, Joe, is like I was like impressed because I was like, I thought that was more of a newer generational thing, but that was impressive to be like, when I started watching the film, I'm like, what the hell is this? I was like, this is so cheesy. And then what's interesting is American Horror Story, with the whole movie theater in the beginning of it, did an episode about like people turning in a drive-in, and I was like, oh my god, I wonder if the writer of that was like, I remember this from this movie, and I'm going to make a whole episode about this on American Horror Story, where a film director creates a film and makes everyone go crazy. And so I was like, I was
that
really impressed.
Comes from an Italian film that Demons went into, or it's basically on that premise. Basically, they go to movie theaters, and what's happening on the screen starts happening inside the movie theater.
Yeah, that's cool.
I love that movie.
Which has one of the greatest soundtracks you ever want to hear.
Right.
Demon. So that brings what?
I was going to say this actually makes it so that now on April Fool's Day, if I want to watch a horror movie, I can actually alternate between this and April Fool's Day and Slaughter High. Like there's more of them now. It doesn't have to be the same one every year. I'm sorry, Keith. Go ahead.
No, I totally agree with you, sort of thing. And this is a nice little fun one, actually. I think this is one that I'm actually gonna go out and buy this on Blu-ray at one point, sort of thing, just to have in my collection and drag out and show people who are a bit weird who like this.
Being like us.
That brings us to Night of the Demons from 1987, which is an American supernatural horror film directed by Kevin S. Tenney, written and produced by Joe Augustin, and starring Amelia Kincaid, Kathleen Podwell, Linnea Quigley, Hal Havens, and Alvin Alexis. The plot follows a group of high school students who throw a party inside an isolated funeral parlor. While attempting a séance, they accidentally release a demon locked in this crematorium that begins to possess them one by one. This was filmed in Los Angeles in 1987. Night of the Demons premiered in Detroit in September of that same year, followed by a wider release in 1988. It grossed $3.1 million at the box office. Though it received a mixed critical response, the film would later become a cult classic in the years since its release. It's followed by 2 sequels, as well as a 2009 remake of the same name. So we'll cut to the trailer and be right back.
A full moon. A spooky, deserted mansion. Halloween night.
All right, dudes. And Dusses. Let's party!
10 kids. All they want to do is raise a little hell. Now, as long as they live, they'll wonder what's gotten into them. Night of the Demons.
Blessed be the sinners, for the day of atonement is at hand.
Stop looking at me!
We're gonna get out of here.
Night of the Demons. Party till you drop.
Hello, welcome back to Literary License Podcast. We're discussing Night of the Demons from 1987. So, John, what are your thoughts of Night of the Demons?
I cannot believe I remember this film. Like, I mean, it's crazy. When I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, I've totally seen this film. And then as I was watching, I was like, I remember this. I remember this. I remember the goth girl. What's her name? Angela. Remember her, and I definitely remember Suzanne. Like Suzanne, the bad girl.
How do you not remember Suzanne?
I know Suzanne is. You cannot not remember Suzanne. What I didn't know was the director also did Witchboard, and that movie I think was one of the first movies that scared the hell out of me because I went to go see it with my cousins when we went to go back to Oklahoma with my family. Went to go back there. We sat down, we were watching this one night and we were like, what do we get? So we went to, get a VHS and we're like, we picked that one. So we get home, we watch it. And I remember that night, I was like, I could not sleep with the guy with the axe. And I was like, holy shit, this is the same director. Oh my God, this is amazing. I didn't know that.
I had the exact same experience with Witchboard and then Witch Trap.
Oh,
I
God,
was terrified of those movies. And that's why when I first went out to LA, I sought out Kevin Tenney. I was like, dude, I got to meet you.
And what's funny about like Witchboard is there's just like two scenes that you're like, oh my God, and it's traumatizing because you watch it, it's a big build up, and but getting back to this, I mean, I love the aspect of like, people getting trapped in a house and getting trapped and how do they get out, and then one by one they're getting kind of picked off. And I found it funny because it's almost like Jay and Judy. I mean, Jay and Judy, the super couple here, were like literally I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but Janet and Brad from Rocky Horror. It just the way that they every time Judy would talk, it's like, oh Jay.
I mean, when you're saying Witchboard, what always remind me of Witchboard is one of my favorite actresses. Whenever I see her name on something, I get really excited. But Kathleen Withhoit, she played the hippie one in Witchboard.
Yeah, it was Zarabeth. Yeah.
It's like she has like albums out on Spotify and everything this woman does. But she's always that's what reminds me of Witchboard. Whenever I say Witchboard, I always think of her for some reason. I don't know why.
One of the
in the movie, and I became a weird groupie.
The actor that plays Dr. Phil in the films that Dave and I made, the Caesar and Otto films, the actor that plays Dr. Phil apparently is friends with her. So that I've heard she's really cool. Never met her myself, but she's another one that's pretty awesome and everything. Like if you've seen Dream Demon, so another one that she's in. She's really good in that.
Weren't you in Bad Dreams as well? I think.
And what?
Bad Dreams with Jennifer Rubens. I think she might. Is she in
Yeah,
that?
I think she's in that too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I search her out. I still follow her. It's like, oh, she's got that coming out, so I will watch that. It's like, or she'll be, I don't know, CSI for an episode or something. I'll pop her in there, sort of thing. But getting back to Night of the Demons, I like it. I mean,
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's when you see Linnea Quigley,
I love her in this.
For some reason. I mean, she just
her introduction.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Just her outfit.
I know.
With the bow.
I know. With the little pigtail bow,
About that scene, the clerk behind the counter, the one to the right of the frame is the actor James W. Quinn, who plays Lloyd in Witchboard, and then he's the lead in Witch Trap. He's the voice of the demon anytime that there's like a demonic voice. It's the guy who is the clerk behind that's checking out Linnea Quigley's ass. So
that was hysterical and brilliant, because I was like, at one point like, oh, this is totally literally eye candy for anyone. And then I was like, oh my God, she's totally using like, oh, while her friend is ripping them off, which was like brilliant. It was so good.
They never caught on that it's taken her that long to look at Ty.
Yeah. Do you think they cared?
Yeah. Yeah. She just walks out of that. It's just straight out of the store. No one stopping her. They're kind of mesmerized, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Well,
I was like 12 when I saw this. I was mesmerized.
Each of them were.
I feel sorry for Roger in this movie. Who doesn't feel sorry for Roger?
I know. Poor Roger. I mean, by the way, he was wanting to climb over that wall. He was really like, how the hell do I get out of here?
Well,
it's just that part where he tries to ditch. What's the lead girl's name? Tries to ditch her at the end when
Angela
Hal Haven says Stooge coming at her. Is like, yep, I'm out.
Yeah, Judy. Well, which by the way, he's like climb, and she's like, I can't. Okay, well, bye.
Yeah,
I can't.
Oh, shit.
And he's like, the funny thing is, like, he was like, well, here, there's a thing. He was like, I'm going for it. He just went. I was like, yeah, I mean, wouldn't you do the same? You try to help someone who doesn't want to help themselves, and then he's like, okay. He hears her bloody screaming. Okay, fine. Then he goes and saves her.
I like when they're on the way to the house and they pass by the old man with the groceries.
Razor blades. Is that the guy with the razor blades and the apple?
Yeah. My favorite.
My grass.
My favorite is like they're so like mean to him, and then Judy comes along. You're like, "Can I help you?" He's like, "Get away from me!" He's like,
I know, what a dick. He was not a nice old man. He's like the epitome of mean old man for sure.
Yeah. It reminded me of when I watched Trick or Treat yesterday, because there's a similar mean old man in that too. That is like, it comes back to haunt him.
Don't you think his old lady decided to give him that apple pie on purpose?
Oh, I think she was tired of his shit. She was like, I'm done with you.
It crossed my mind because she kisses him on the forehead after he's clearly dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly.
She didn't want to let that fruit go to waste.
Mm-hmm. Nice apple pie.
This does have one of those classic moments, one of those classic 80s moments where, and I think this happens in every 80s movie, whether it's a comedy, drama, or a horror film, is that you can tell that the music was added in afterwards, because the dancing that they're doing is like actually not the music they must be dancing to. I mean, when Angela's doing that dance, and they bring that music, and you're like,
it's not in sync completely either.
No,
they never.
Well, that's insane. It had to be added afterwards, because even when Angela's dancing around the room, it's like, this is not really. This is kind of I picture something else.
I mean, I don't know how music rights were done in those days. I think nowadays they secure the music rights before they even go do the film nowadays. But back then they kind of put the music in afterwards because it would take that long to get music rights. Yeah. But you can always tell it's just like, I mean, there'll be like this, and all of a sudden there'll be like some like Sex Pistols playing in the background. They're like, they're like just bopping up and down. You're like, or they'll be bopping up and down, and there'll be like some kind of like weird mid-tempo ballad playing. You're like, what's going on?
Yeah, do you really believe that Stooge picked those songs based on what it looks like?
I know.
Yeah.
Well, Stooge, I mean, it's like he was basically like, I don't know how they cast him, but I mean, they cast him well. But the thing is, we need to make you look a bit punk, and then we'll put a couple little stripes in your head.
Yeah, yeah, the little zigzag.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, you're so new wave, dude. Oh, you're so new wave.
He was the caretaker of the haunted house in Kevin Tenney's Witch Trap, which is the movie he made right before this. So he probably figured was on that set when, you know, you might be good for this. You're a big guy, and there's all this stuff about him being a fat pig. So that's probably how it came about.
It was weird though that
okay, we're gonna make you a bit punk. We're gonna put like a little stripe in your head.
It's weird that Roger and Helen were friends with him, because I felt like Helen was very like geeky schoolgirl, and Roger was like, you know, football league guy. You know, like it would seem like to me more like Franny and Max would be more his friends, the way their personalities were. Or even what was her name? Angela. Like I was surprised, you know, I'm surprised Angela wouldn't be that, you know.
Well, I'm surprised Angela was even at this party, sort of thing. Really, she kind of like, right? Her personality didn't really. Even the people that she was friends with, she didn't seem like she was friends with. It's kind of odd. She's kind of.
But isn't that the goth girl? I hate everyone. I hate everyone and everything. You know, and
they really elaborate
I didn't know she was a goth
on
girl.
that.
I just thought because that was her Halloween costume.
No,
they really elaborate on that in the
I-
the reboot in 2009, because she's totally out there in the new one. They're the newer one, I should say.
I think she totally is goth girl. Like I picture it like that's like people would be like, "Oh, is that your Halloween costume?" She's like, "No." Like this is what I wear every day. Fuck you. You know, like,
I think they have Linnea do the.
Yeah.
I think in the remake, if I remember correctly, because I've only seen it the one time when it first came out, I think they have Linnea doing the whole bending over thing. I think that's the way they introduce her again in that, isn't it?
I didn't see.
They've done a staircase, I think, for Angela.
No, for Linnea Quigley, because I know Linnea is in the remake. I think they introduced her the same way. I think she's still in that costume, and I think she's bent over.
Oh my god, that's hysterical.
I don't remember that. I think there was another girl. She was dressed like a cat, I want to say, and she was the. It wasn't quite the same. They really it was quite different in a lot of ways. The second one, or the 2009 reboot.
Well, you almost have to modernize, because this is definitely that feel of, you know, like how do you? Because this is like very a timed piece. Like this is an 80s piece, like very specific.
Yeah, it's very, you know, the women are there to be Googled at, and then the men are there to get laid, and that's pretty much the whole premise.
Who was it? So was it Roger? Who was it? Judy discovers. Oh, Jay invited her there just to have sex. So that, you know.
And even the relationship with like her and her brother, you know, like the bratty brother, you know, and the overbearing.
Yeah, what's with the
mom.
bratty brother checking out her sister's boob? You know what the heck?
That was hysterical. Like I was like, what? Wait, what?
It's just like, is there supposed to be incest in this movie?
And then he's like trying to be protective of her when Sal comes by, and even that was like really funny. Tell me, you brat, or I'm gonna punch you in the face or whatever. I forget what he said, and I was like, and then the kid's like, oh yeah, she's going here. I'm like, what?
My brothers, I keep my brothers never hidden any of my closets. I would have fucked that little shit up. It was in my family.
He sells her out for $1.
I know, for $1. He's like, I have 50 cents. 50 cents. Okay, here's $1. Okay, fine.
Well, I mean, the worst thing is like with Judy and Jay sex scene. Well, the sex scene that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
right.
And he goes, "Well, you went out with Stu." And he goes, "Just because I went out with Stu didn't put up with him." And he goes, "Well, did you?" She goes, "I don't have to answer that." So,
I
know. And I thought to myself, "Is like, you know, because you know, like you were something with Stu. Obviously, with Jay's not going to be that bad. She slept with Stu already." So,
right.
Yeah, seriously.
Some of the Halloween costumes are a bit safe. I mean, I guess we got the Alice in Wonderland outfit sort of thing.
I thought that was actually smart, because it's like going down the rabbit hole. So for her, it was literally like another world for her, you know.
But none of the other ones really dressed up, did they? Really?
No.
Well, what was Linnea supposed to be? I mean, what did she say she was with the pink bows in her hair and the pink dress? What was she?
I mean, probably like a baby doll, because that's what she looks like. Because she had the pink tails and the pink dress.
The thing right here, yeah.
And I mean, I think, you know, Jay didn't dress up. He was like, I'm not dressing. Remember, he was like, I'm not dressing up. That's for kids or whatever. So he didn't. Even
I don't ever trust anybody about Halloween parties. They'll say, dress up. I know, because last time I was the only one dressed up. I can get to follow this shit again. You know, you just never know. People, they lie.
Just dress up as yourself and just say that you're a serial killer and you look like everyone else.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm Joe on his day off.
Yeah.
Or get a garbage bag and just put a garbage bag over you and go, what are you on white trash? I've done that before.
White trash. That's a good one, actually. It's easy too.
Yeah, just put a garbage bag on. If worst comes to worst, they put it on. I'm dressed. So, but no, I think Night of the Demons holds up quite well, actually. It's a fun little slice of 80s, and it moved very, very well. And
it's funny.
The demon changes are well done in it.
Yeah.
The special effects are not badly done in it, and they hold up quite
Angela's transformation is quite impressive, I think. You know?
Yeah. And those scenes, like when I first saw this movie, it was on late night cable in like the mid 90s. I was like 12, 13 years old. And those scenes of Angela just kind of floating through the hallway.
Yeah.
That stuff always bothers me.
Yeah.
That sliding, that moonwalking across the floor, corpse-like action stuff, that always gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Even the scene where she sticks the lipstick into her boob. I was like, wow.
What's the deal with that? Even
she's like shoves it in. I was like,
the
oh my
girl
God.
has skills, that's for sure.
And then she's like, stop looking at me. Stop looking at me. And then she pokes his eyes out. And I forget what she says when Sal comes back and he's like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? And she says something like very, like to that effect, like something about like looking at, he looked at me too much or something. I was like, oh my God. It was fun. I love that film. I love that I remembered it because I was like, oh my God, I totally remember this film and being like, like you said, her floating down the freaking hallway, and she demonically started progressively looked worse. So every scene you would see her, it was like, okay, now it's this, now it's her when she's burning her hand, and then all of a sudden it's like, then she's got boils, and then it looked like her crown almost turned into snakes the way her hair was. It was like Medusa.
It did kind of look Gorgon like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love this movie. It's kind of the gateway, most easily accessible Kevin Tenney movie. And when people like anybody that I've met wouldn't know who love you, Kevin. A lot of people that I meet don't know Kevin Tenney's name, but then when you mention he directed Night of the Demons, everyone's oh my God, I love that movie.
Yeah.
And it's a fun little Halloween movie. And like at this point, I've seen it like dozens of times by now at this point in my life, and I still enjoy it, and it's still fun. It does hold up really, really well.
Yeah.
And if you see this and you like it, I'm sure John will agree with me on this. Check out Witchboard. I love Witchboard. I love Witchboard.
I haven't seen that for years. I'm gonna check.
There's
that
also
out.
like there's no overthinking the plot, which I do like about this is that it's a simple plot. They go to a house. They fuck up. They open they look into a mirror and they open up Pandora's box, and now it's like, shit, how do we get out of this situation? And same with Witchboard, right? We mess around with something and we wake something up, and now it's coming after us, and it's a very simple, non-complex plot, you know.
Why do they always have to have those kind of like the incinerators, you know, that clearly, you know, look like they're for bodies?
Well, she thought it was an exit, which I thought was hysterical. Judy's like, oh, there's a door right here. She goes open and she's like, oh, crap. No, it's not.
You mean in this old converted funeral parlor, there's a crematorium?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true.
Oh my God. And I forgot the other scene too, where she is like badass with her, you know, where she gets a pipe and she's like, when she's burning Angela. Yeah. That was a cool scene.
Angela's definitely the star of the show, I think. Her and Roger. I don't know why I felt so bad. That poor guy. I mean, didn't he stay in the car in the beginning of the movie mostly?
Him and I forget what's her name were the smart ones. They're like, we're getting out of here, and then they just couldn't, because which was another weird thing that the demon was keeping them in. Like it was like the wall just kept moving.
This movie, I mean, if you're looking for fun Halloween stuff, I mean, don't let your kids watch it, I guess. You know, there are limits. But I mean, it is fun to watch. I mean, I was
think
laughing.
Teenagers watch it. I think, maybe
Teenagers are okay with it.
I think 12 and above, I would let them watch this film.
I think if anything, it's more like, there's only the thing of sex. I think most 11-year-olds know what sex is. So like the whole that aspect of it, but like from the killings aspect, there's nothing that's that
really too out there.
Yeah,
I think Linnea Quigley keeps pretty much her clothes on, doesn't she? Does she?
Yeah. She takes her top off to do the whole lipstick thing.
That's not it, really.
Yeah, there's
this is tame for her.
Well, and then the couple end up having sex in the coffin, but you don't see it. You just see her with her top off, and then that's when they get killed.
Precisely.
But it's yeah.
I don't think there's not a lot of 80s moaning and groaning either. They're overacting like
or it's done in a minute.
And like you said, the violence isn't like too intense. There isn't like any really intense gore. It's pretty tame. So maybe
there's a lot of cutaway. It's like before the kill. There's a little bit of cutaway.
Which sometimes is a better effect too. Sometimes you don't have to see everything to keep it entertaining.
Well, I also like the whole fact that at the end of the movie, you do get that the breaking of the third wall when she goes happy Halloween, dear, sort of thing. It does a wink to the audience, sort of thing. And that was quite nice as well, sort of thing, because it's like, okay, So you do have. So if you are someone who's quite impressionable, sort of thing, you do, because of that. At the end of that movie, with her saying that, kind of breaks the like you just watched the movie, sort of thing.
Yeah.
The thing about Kevin's movies is that the violence doesn't really go that over the top. He's just a really solid director that knows how to keep you entertained through the whole time. So,
and creeped out. Like when you're like the scene where she is like, more Angela, where she's like dancing and she's doing this like very witchy dance with that's creepy. Like, I remember watching that going, this is really creepy. Like, what is she going to do?
Well, you knew it wasn't going to end well.
Yeah.
And to be honest, if you come into the middle of the movie and you see that dance sequence, you think, what the hell is Stevie Nicks doing in this movie?
Right down to the
witchy woman, witchy.
Stand by.
The interesting thing again is this movie. When it wants to make you laugh, it will make you laugh, and when it wants to creep you out, it can creep you out, and it's so it's kind of difficult to kind of walk that line that way sometimes. But this movie actually nails both aspects of it, which makes it fantastic.
I think some directors even want to keep you in that uncomfortableness, but it's to me a brilliance to be able to kind of play with comedy in some ways, and that sort of to have that ability to let someone pull out of that and then come back into that and being able to kind of just have fun, right? And like there's some that their goal is to just keep you in that pit and keep you there and make you feel uncomfortable throughout the entire film, and you leave it going, I'm a little exhausted from being in that pit for so long, versus this is like kind of the ups and downs of it,
It does have a lot of upswing.
Yeah.
It's not, I would call it lighthearted, but I mean, it does, break in a little bit.
I mean, there's a comedy aspect of it, just how they talk to each other and the relationships they have. And, just the corniness of Judy and Jay, it's just so corny. It's like, it seems like you're a 50s couple versus an 80s couple, like just the way you talk to each other,
And then Sal, who is the epitome of the fucking Guido, who's the 50s Italian.
I'm gonna smack you around, kid. What are you talking about?
I'm gonna smack you around if you don't tell me where your sister is.
Yeah.
He's every guy I grew up with in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Which, by the way, like that, he didn't try. He was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna give up on this. And then he saw Angela, and he's like, "You're crazy, bitch." And I'm like, "I'm not dealing with you."
And I quite like that all the characters are likable.
He walked down Suzanne too.
Yeah.
What's that?
I like that all the characters are likable as well.
Yeah.
A lot of 80s films, I mean, you get a lot of unlikable characters that kind of happen,
Right.
There's so many, like in Friday the 13th or Halloween or all the other films that are.
And they're usually men with those.
You have all these unlikable characters that basically you're supposed to find yourself rooting for, but you just like hurry up and just die already.
Yeah.
You don't really find that in this movie. You like them all. So when they do die, it's and you do kind of miss, once they start getting knocked off one by one, you kind of miss them being gone in the movie, which is quite nice.
Which I think like Stooge, I mean, I didn't like Stooge and I didn't like Jay. Those are the only two that I was like, but I felt bad for like even Angela because she wasn't a bad person. And she like told them, you're messing with this. Like, we're going to do this, but we're messing with this. And then she was like, oh God, I think we messed up. Right. And then who was it? Oh, it was Franny who saw her reflection of her dying. She had freaked out, and then it was like the party's over, and then and then that's when things kind of got a little sobering for everyone. But by then it was too late. So then it's like the only two, like I said, was like Jay. I was like, he could die, like he could die. Let him die.
And poor Angela gets stuck there for the next two movies too.
Yeah, yeah. She becomes a new host, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Does anyone have any final things they want to say about Killer Party and Night of the Demons? Start with you, Vicky.
They're a lot of fun. I would suggest if you're looking for, we got a couple weeks to burn before Halloween, or even if it's not Halloween, if you just want, some light humor and horror, it's definitely both of them. I wouldn't turn them down. They're definitely good movies to watch. Like say on Sunday, you turn it on and, just chill there and watch it and laugh. I love both of them. I thought they were great. I mean, Killer Party wasn't my favorite out of the two, but I really enjoyed it. It's typical. It's vintage 80s. It's so vintage. It's not even funny. I was just sitting here thinking to myself, were we that fucked up back in the 80s? I mean, were we?
Yeah. We were.
Was that our mentality back
we
then?
Yeah. So, and what about yourself, John? What are your thoughts of these two films?
I actually love, again, I'm so glad to see Night of Demons again because I completely forgot about that film. I love that Killer Party is a Canadian film. It makes me actually now want to watch more Canadian horror films because I like that aspect.
They are enjoyable.
Yeah, it's enjoyable to see how they kind of poke fun at our horror in some ways. And I didn't until Keith said that, I was like, oh, they kind of do. They kind of take all that and they take the tropes and they kind of make fun of those. And then they also create these characters that are more real versus I think Night of the Demons, it is it's such the good Catholic girl, good, football boy, they kind of create these modelings of those characters. And I wondered that too. It was like the 80s acting is so different from now. And
oh my God, you think?
But no, but I'm thinking, is it their acting or is it just that's how we were, right? Because even when we present ourselves, we talk a certain way, and I'll see actors, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of how people talk. But then I was like, is that how people in the 80s actually really talk? Because I don't remember in that way, how people interacted that way. Or is it just an over exaggeration of that?
I think it's an over exaggeration with a grain of truth.
Yeah, because even if you think of Valley Girl, oh my God.
Totally your fault.
Like Valley Girls, were there Valley Girls like that? I'm like, I kind of remember.
There was. Then it was like totally tubular, It's like everyone's gagged to the spoon. It was totally rough.
Yeah. I remember them.
Yeah, Valley Boys as well, though. So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
We were like that. We were like that in college. We were all going
I got
fuck me with a chainsaw, toast sure. I'm totally sure.
Oh my God. I think you think now is it's LOL. It's everything is now shortened, so it's FML.
FML,
my life.
Yeah. It's still the same concept, though. I guess if you look at it that way.
Yeah.
Well, I remember going to the bar and looking at someone going, "Oh my God, he's so grody."
I remember grody. Yep.
Ew. He's got cuties. He's grody.
Gnarly.
Gag me with a ginsu.
And until Mean Girls came out, then it was fetch. Now everything is fetch. Oh my God, that's so fetch. That's so fetch.
Yeah. God, we're just so pretentious. And
what about yourself, Joe? What are your final thoughts?
Killer Party. I didn't like as much as a lot of you guys did, but I love Paul Bartel. So when I see his name pop up in anything, I'm like, I'm going to stick it through just for him. And I'm glad I did. It was it turned out to be a fun little movie. Night of the Demons. I do have to preface this. Kevin Tenney and I have been friends for 10 years, but I loved this movie before I met him. So this isn't me like just saying something good about somebody that I consider a friend. But I love the movie. I genuinely love this movie, and have since it started popping up on TV in the 90s. Absolutely adore it. It's one of the most fun movies to watch this time of year. I probably watch it at this point almost every year around Halloween time. I think it's on Shudder right now. So if you have Shudder, go check it out. I think Witchboard is on there too. Go check out Witchboard. It's just such a fun little Halloween movie. And it's one of those movies that it's always really cool. Like when you meet somebody and you mention you mention Night of the Demons, it's, oh my God, yeah, I love that movie. Because it's iconic. It's become iconic. And you can see why it was such a huge hit, because it's just one of those movies you just want to get a bunch of friends around and just kind of chill and
just
throw back a couple of drinks. You don't have to take it too seriously.
No.
Because it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
I wonder what was so different about the 80s. 80s was, I know the 60s had their stamp and the 70s is, but the 80s, so much.
A lot of cocaine.
I think
a lot of cocaine. Yeah, I could blame a lot of cocaine on
I think they also
loved.
I think they loved camp, whereas now I just think a lot of directors who are like, I'm a serious director. They want it so serious, and they want it so, like I said, I want you in the pit and I want you to stay there throughout the entire film, versus like something that's a little bit slapstick and fun. There isn't as many viewers who appreciate that, right? They either want the horror, like the deep horror, or they want comedy. They don't want a mix of the two. And it's a unique genre that used to be in the 80s a typical, thing for everything.
I think the balance with Dave Camfield and I made a couple of horror comedies together, and he specifically said, well, I call them horror comedies. He said, no, these are comedy horrors that we're making. And the distinction, as he put it, was that the balance in the films that he and I made together are more comedic, less horror. I think when it's more balanced, like Night of the Demons, and a lot of those movies like that, I think that they resonate better with horror fans than something that's more slapsticky, like say your Scary Movie stuff. Like those are comedies that have horror aspects. This is more of a horror movie that has kind of comedic aspects. I think the balance in this movie is fucking spot on. It's perfect. The tonal shifts always work. So yeah, I absolutely adore this movie.
I think another thing you have to remember in the 80s is that 80s, there's a bit like 80s music as well. Independent labels, independent studios.
Yeah.
And so, and of course you also have the video cassette boom, where basically it's like, if you didn't get a multiplex, you could release it on video and it would find its audience. So then you had a lot of people, and when you have independent studios or independent record labels or independent anything, you got people being able to push the boundaries to do whatever they want to do, sort of thing. And it will find its audience at some point or another, and that's, I think that's, the choices that we made for 80s, we're going to see a lot of independent stuff. We got some, studio films in there as well, of course. But what you'll do is find is, I think, when you have that, you get a lot of different stuff through, where today there's no longer the independent, film studios or the independent record label. So you're not getting a lot of huge choices at the moment. You're not getting anything building up. You're getting what's going to make the bottom dollar. And at this time, it wasn't about how much money you're going to make. It's about because you're in love with making film. That's what it was.
Exactly.
That is something about the 80s, is that even the bigger studios were more open to experimenting with something. Whereas now, if you show up with a completely original idea, it might get shot down because they're like, well, our tracking shows that it's not gonna make enough to justify this, and this. Whereas in the 80s, you had Bob Zemeckis show up with the script to Back to the Future. Nobody knew what it was, but Universal, let's do it. I was watching a documentary on Ghostbusters the other day. Dan Aykroyd wrote this 30-page treatment. Went to a producer. He's like, I'll put $30 million behind it. Just get it to me by June of 1984, and that's it.
Yeah,
people were more willing to take risks. And I've said this a lot of times. I was like, if Lethal Weapon 5 comes out next year, it's going to make $1 billion. But if the next screenplay to the next thing that would become Lethal Weapon is written right now, no studio is going to touch it.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of get that. There's a really good series on Netflix, the movies that we were brought up with, or whatever like that.
Yes, that's excellent.
There's
the
a
films
really
that
good
made
one
us-
on there about aliens, about James Cameron. I mean, James Cameron comes from the Roger Corman school, and it talks about the making of that. And like, but at the same time, it's because of these big blockbusters that kind of put the death to a lot of things as well.
Yeah.
It's because of Back to the Future and Aliens and these Steven Spielberg and all these other things. But another thing you have to remember, in the 70s, that broke the Hollywood code, and that broke down Hollywood studios, sort of thing. And then by the 80s, it's like, we basically had independent cinema, sort of thing, which basically gave us Godfather and all the other stuff. These independent, but at the same time, is bringing this other stuff through. And then by the time 90s came through, it's like we're now blockbusters. It doesn't match what the small movies are doing. We want big movies making big money, and that's all that matters. And that's where we are now.
And now that's all they make.
Yeah.
And that sucks. I hate to say, I don't want to pop anybody's bubble, but that's my personal opinion.
Well, I also think that it's like you take a chance on a director, and if they do really well, the challenge isn't going to the director and say, do it again. The challenge is do something else and different, right? Yeah. Because more than likely they're doing it, and then it's like now that bar is set so high, and they want you to go over that bar, and what ends up happening is they try to replicate it, and it just it's like a one-trick pony. You did it, now do something different. The director of Blythe, I can't remember his name, but also did Hill House, was talking about doing Midnight Mass. And he goes, this was a dream project. And I was so fortunate that Netflix had invested in me, because when I came to them with this, they said, well, you did 2 really amazing things. We trust you. And he did something different. And he even said, well, what would be your next, so the person who's interviewing me, what would be your next project? And he goes, I would love to do a Western. And you're like, two, very different horror, ghost stories, and another one that's about, vampires. And then now you don't want to do a Western, but they're going to trust him because he does it right, and he knows what he's doing. And there's a trust there. A lot of studios don't trust people because they want the same. I want the same thing. I don't want something different. And the audience wants the same thing, right? And then what they're finding now is the audience doesn't want the same thing. They're like, well, this is shit. This is just like what we just saw 2 years ago. And so now there is a course correction when it comes to when a studio hires a director.
I liked
or producer.
Midnight Mass. Didn't you guys watch
I think
Midnight Mass?
what you'll
watched
find
it yet.
nowadays is, you're not going to get independent cinema the way that you used to find it, like at Blockbuster or something like that. You're now going to get it through Netflix, Amazon, Shudder. I mean, if you want some of the best horror at the moment, go to Shudder. You can leave Blumhouse behind and go to Shudder and pretty much find all the interesting independents. There's nothing, Blumhouse has its place.
IFC has a couple good ones on it as well.
Yeah.
Tubi has some stuff on it. I believe Pluto does too. I mean, they have. I mean, like I said, COVID wasn't a great time, but it was the era I discovered independent film and fell in love with it because I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and I'm hoping that
you have to look out your comfort zone. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm hoping that the leaning towards streaming services, now though it's going to cut the budget of a lot of films, I hope it brings back that kind of mid-level, that mid-budget movie that seems to have disappeared.
Yeah.
Like if we could start to get those again, that would be fantastic, because right now it's either you got this giant $500 million fucking Avengers movie, or you got this tiny little movie that was made for like $10,000. And it's like,
but look what happened with COVID. So, movie theaters closed, and that was a big lesson. Right? You took 20, 30 million to produce a film, and they held it, waited. And then it's like, okay, well, we need to release this because now fans are pissed off. Right. And they release it, and it's kind of like, we didn't get the box office earnings that we normally would, but on the streaming side, they got more viewership. And so the numbers were there in a different way, in a different algorithm. And so it really gets back to the story, right? Like how much you're going to spend on the story now. When what you're trying to do is like, we're going to spend 20 million, but box office, we're going to get 120 million, right? And if that's the case, and that's what you're quantifying as a good story,
Right.
then you're wrong. That's not a good story. A good story is that resonates with people, that will buy the subscription, that will stay in that
Right.
seat. That is like
Exactly.
a virtual seat that's there, right? So
Exactly. You're now selling them the ticket
Yeah.
every single month
Yeah.
for $14.95 or whatever it is, and you're cutting
Yeah.
out the middleman. You're cutting out the theaters too. So
yeah.
Like
I think
HBO
it
Max.
also-
I love HBO Max. I didn't think I'd like it, but
It's great.
I'm keeping it.
I mean, I think another
I'm
thing you have
keeping
to
it-
also remember is that if you want a voice of the people, you're not going to find the voice of the people through corporate America. You're going to find it through the artists and
Exactly.
the street sort of thing. And that, if you look at the voice of the 80s or the 70s or 60s, they weren't from corporations. They were from the voice of the street. The movies as well. I mean, they came from. The 80s came from independent people who, basically struggled to get their movie made and got made. And that's what you do. Unfortunately, I think when we get to 2000 and 2010, it's going to really be hard to sit there and find that voice of that generation.
Yeah.
Because
that's around when it just became an algorithm. The algorithms kind of started ruling everything. And it's going to kind of.
There's also an emergence of the competition, right? So that story that, as a creator, you have an idea, you better run with it, because I'm guaranteeing you there's 10 other people who have that same idea. And so it's not a
Somebody's going to
coincidence.
present it.
It's not a coincidence when you see theatrically a movie about Truman Capote comes out, and then 2 months later another one comes out. It's because someone had that idea, and the studios were in a mad rush of who can get it first.
Get it out there. Yep.
I guess it's easy. I guess it's easy if you look at it through the music industry. If the Rolling Stones came out today, their first album, which flopped, they wouldn't be around anymore.
No.
You got one shot to make a hit. If you're not a hit, that's it. You're gone.
Yeah.
Right.
And
You get
if you look
panned,
at if you look up through up until like late 90s, early 2000s, it's like you could afford to have a flop album. That's fine. It's okay. Well, we'll see how the next one does. It's a growing process. We'll help you. We'll see where the next one goes. And you were given that chance. Nowadays, if you're not number one if you're not the number one horse coming out of that
gate,
stable, you're dead. Your contract's over. You'll never hear from you again. You don't have it. And even and you got to repeat yourself over and over and over again. Even like Quentin Tarantino. I mean, who's been very lucky because I do like all his films. But I remember what was it? Hateful Eight didn't do as well, and then they were thinking, oh, should we continue his contract? They were actually desperately thinking about it because it didn't. Because it made 200,000 pounds less than the previous one. And this is what we're looking at now, sort of thing. It's not like, he fumbled a little bit, didn't find his audience, but we'll see where he goes to the next one.
Yeah.
And that discovery is over. Like you used to be able to find your audience on video, on cable, on television. And now the Great Santini is one flopped, but it's considered a classic now because people who saw it on TV were like, oh my God, this is really good.
Yeah. Well, if Francis Ford Coppola was coming out today and he made The Godfather, he'd be considered great. But what did he make after The Godfather? One from the Heart, which was like one of the considered. It's a classic now, but at the time it was considered one of the worst. We probably wouldn't even hear from him ever again because of that.
Yeah,
that's what Spielberg. He's flopped a couple of times as well. He did his movie. Then he came out with 1941, which is one considered a huge flop at the time.
Right.
He would have been dead in the water now. If he came out today, if he did, follow that. So, it's something to learn nowadays. Sort of thing.
And his next movie after 1941 was Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
So, think
the rest is history.
Think about that.
Though than saying that, we don't have to suffer through a remake of West Side Story.
Well, though it looks amazing. I'm not going to lie. I saw the I was like, the trailer looks fantastic. I thought, oh God, what are they going to do to the story? Because I was like, leave it alone. Don't touch this movie. Leave it alone. And then I was like,
movie, John?
West Side Story.
The West Side Story remake.
It looks beautiful.
They're going to do a new one?
Yeah, look at the trailer.
It's already filmed.
I'll check it out. Oh, wow. I didn't even hear
the trailer
about
looks beautiful. It's not, they do a really good stylistic approach to everything. And it to me, the curious thing is that if you're remaking it from the original, it's almost like what I am worried about is when they tried to remake Psycho. And it was trying to be so psycho that it almost was like, we know what you're doing. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit now. I'm worried about that because it looks so much like the original. Like it looks.
I'm worried about how they're not
100%
letting
like
anyone else. They let one person. They released this one song over the trailer. It's one person singing.
Yeah.
And there's a memo that's going around not to release any of the music because not until after the film's released. So I wonder, like, how does everyone sing then?
Yeah.
Because let's face it, it's not an easy sing song. It's not an easy musical to do. Even on stage, it's bloody difficult to cast, sort of thing. And then, of course, the movie. I mean, no one's singing with the real voices anyway. I mean, they're all like, Russ Tamlin's singing the part of action, though he's playing the part of Riff Raff.
Yeah. Well, that's what's hard too. When I like to be in America. Like, it's one of those. If someone is ethnically that background and singing it, it sounds real. But if you're having someone who's not and it sounds really bad,
who did they put in there for Rita Moreno?
Why didn't you hire someone who's
back, by the way?
In the movie.
Oh, she's in it.
Rita Moreno's back in the movie. Yeah.
No kidding. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to check this out.
It looks amazing. I mean, I'm crossing my fingers. I think it's gonna do fine.
Who directed it?
Spielberg.
Spielberg
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Why haven't
To be honest, I don't think it's going to have a patch on the old one, basically. But I'm going to watch it for curiosity's sake.
Same.
But it's funny because we covered a lot of Cronenberg movies last month, and I remember reading something recently that Cronenberg can't get a movie made.
Yeah.
So that's where we are now, because it's just all about the bottom. It's all about that bottom dollar, and they don't want to just turn a profit. If they just turn a profit, they're not happy with it. It has to make like $500 million.
Yeah.
It's
also the fans, where the fans are raising their hands in a certain way. If they're not getting something, then they're gonna shift focus, right? So we
have social media to gripe on too.
Yeah.
So, but Lloyd Kaufman talked to us about that last year when we interviewed him. About independent film, and it's a massive struggle, but he's remained steadfast. 42 years now?
Well, because he was never mainstream.
Yeah,
that seems to be. That seems to be the way to do it. Is if you never work at that top tier, they can't knock you off it.
No.
True, that's true. He's a fighter, though.
Well, I also think that he also has 40 years of fan gathering as well to keep him going.
Oh God, yeah,
no
doubt about that. The base.
Where if he came out today, I'm not sure he'd be where he is today. If he came out in the last 10 years, sort of thing.
And now he can brag about how his boys are out there controlling everything, because you got James Gunn, Matt Stone, and Trey Parker, who are on top of the fucking world right now.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, James Cameron started out. Before that was Roger Corman. Everyone came from the Roger Corman studio.
Yeah.
That's where Francis Ford Coppola came from. That's where Steven Spielberg came from. That's where all these big directors that we have today come from, is Roger Corman.
Tight circles.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for Roger Corman, I mean, it's kind of funny, but Roger Corman taught them how to make movies at a low budget, and now you get these same directors on how to make movies at a low budget. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But they got their start there. Jack Nicholson. We got Jack Nicholson because of Roger Corman. So,
because he was a guy who was making movies cheaply and giving the young guys an opportunity, which is what Lloyd's doing now.
As we creep closer and closer to Halloween, we know that you crave our content like a demon-possessed Valley Girl craves the souls of unwanted party guests. And boy, do we have a lot of content to share. Whether it is listening to soundtracks and or past episodes on any of our many platforms, reading our reviews of books to screen and everything in between, or just getting to know each one of our podtastic hosts, llpodcast.com is here for you. And don't forget, while you're there, sign up for our monthly newsletter, become a patron, purchase some of our rad LLP merch, as well as check out what's to come for this season. As always, we'd like to thank you for downloading, liking, and sharing the Literary License podcast. I feel like Keith. Literary License podcast. Until next time, stay spooky and spectacular, folks. Bye.
Bye.
light, causing the darkest demons come as come.